What's up, everyone? King Henry here, trying to run through my first official partscaster build, my little Frankenstrat, as it were. So I'm pretty excited for this. It's my first real build, trying to be careful with it, not fuck anything up, because this Fender custom shop body is pretty beautiful. One piece of swamp ash. Sounds great. It's really resonant. Just got a nice sustain and tone to it. And it's all pre-drilled, that's why I'm using it. I got it from the Stratosphere, so you can get like parts that are already pre-drilled, so you don't have to mess around with drilling any of these little holes or like the trem claw holes, which are pretty difficult to do. So this is my first one, and I'm almost done with it. I've bolted in the neck pretty good. I got like one screw I have to reset with the drill, but other than that, it's really straight, and I really like it. And I've added these beautiful tuners, these Kluson Revolution Locking tuners, and they're just awesome. They have the vintage look and they're locking, which I like, having both. I really do prefer vintage tuners myself. I may talk about it in another video, but for now, let's stick to the build. So yeah, for this video, I wanted to talk about the difficulty of drilling these little screws in and how to be careful and make sure you're doing it properly. So basically the issue is that these holes need to be perfectly lined up. Then the screws are extremely small, and even the depth of the neck itself is rather small. So you got to make sure a couple things, that when you're drilling it straight, like perfectly downward. You don't want to deviate in any way. And you also want to make sure that you don't go through the fretboard or the neck headstock completely, right? And then beyond that, you actually want to make sure that the depth of the hole is not much further than the screw itself. So let's say, for instance, like this is the screw we want to screw in. If we make the hole longer than the screw, it'll lead to greater instability in the wood over time, and all those little gaps can cause extra warping and problems with the wood over the life of the instrument. So you really want to make sure that the length of the hole is not too long. Additionally, you want to make sure that the width of the hole from side to side should not be greater than it needs to for the screw to fit in. So basically what happens when you have a screw, like say this is like an actual real wood screw, it's got the threading to penetrate the wood, you can see. So when you have like a real hole, if the hole is too big, the screw will fall out, of course. But if it's just slightly too big, you won't notice it at first. So what'll happen is the screw will fit, but over time it'll wear out and it could fall out, and then replacing that is a difficult process. You have to refill the hole and then re-drill it with the proper size drill bit. And yeah, it's a process. So you really want to be careful when you first make your cuts. So yeah, in order to do that, StewMac has a bunch of great tools, and I use all their stuff. Even this pad is from StewMac, Stuart McDonald. You can visit them at stewmac.com. And they have this thing called these depth stop drill bits, which have these little sleeve here. So what you do is you make sure that the length here is the exact length you want for your screw, and usually excluding the head. And in this case, I didn't need a countersink because these heads are actually like structurally above the tuners here. So they don't need to be countersunk into the wood. Whereas in some cases, like for pickguard screws, they do need to be countersunk. But anyway, so these are really great, these depth stop drill bits. And they sell a set of them that they claim, and I believe them, that it'll cover all the different little holes that are required for guitar builders, luthiers, as it were. So these are great. I love these. The only thing I don't like is that they don't label them, so you kind of have to figure it out. And they have a nice video that explains it, but I just wish there was some sort of guide on which color was which size, at least. But you can figure it out mostly on your own. You can compare the drill bit to the screw and figure it out, but that's not ideal. Anyway, the other thing you have to make sure is that your drill is perfectly straight. So even when you insert the drill bit, like you can see there should be no wobble. This is like a very slight wobble. I just redid this just for demonstration purposes. So you want it to be straight because, of course, if there is wobble back and forth, that's going to defeat the whole purpose of setting up and using a proper size drill bit, because the holes you're boring is going to be too large and it will lead to those same problems over time. So yeah, that's basically the process. And yes, ideally I should use a drill press, and for this I did not because I can't afford one right now. They're very expensive. So I just tried to be as careful as possible and take my time and just be very careful. So yeah, that's basically the process of installing these small screws, and you can find them throughout Strat bodies or any guitar really, and it's a lot of fun for me. I like doing this. It's very difficult but time-consuming and really engaging activity. So I advise anyone to get into guitar building or even maintaining your own guitars, because it's a really worthwhile pursuit. You end up learning a lot about woodworking and just how to keep your guitars in tune and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. For my next video, I'm going to be demoing how to polish your frets. It's the only issue I found with this guitar. The neck is beautiful. You can see this rosewood is really nice. It's got a beautiful grain to it. The frets are smooth, and they've been dressed on the sides. You can see that. But what I found after restringing it is that there's a bit of scratchiness. And I find the scratchiness comes when I'm like bending the string onto a fret, and it was pretty consistent throughout. So that's usually a symptom of the manufacturer of the neck, in this case, since I bought it separately, crowned the fret, or dressed the sides of the frets, but probably didn't buff the tops. So I'm gonna be doing in my next video, I have this Frine fret polish and some F1 oil. So I'm gonna just be polishing the frets to remove those little extra pieces of steel fret wire that need to be removed, and it should hopefully remove all that scratchiness. So thank you. Hope you learned something.